Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Peter Range. I'm Senior Fellow at the Center for Christian Virtue, and welcome live to the Catholic Citizen, where we explore this week's news from a Catholic perspective, week in, week out. And I might cough here during the show just because I'm sick. But anyway, Nick, go ahead and roll the tape. We're talking about Trump. He's striking back with a lot of these executive orders. It's fantastic. But we'll talk about it on the flip side here on the Catholic Citizen. Welcome back to the Catholic Citizen, folks. We are not sponsored by McDonald's coffee. However, McDonald's coffee is delicious, and McDonald's, you could sponsor us. So join us at thecatholiccitizen.com. You can also get access to the after show, which is a lot of fun as well. And please, as we're talking here, feel free to post any questions, comments, whether you're watching on Facebook or Twitter, wherever it might be. Nick's going to be watching that, and we'll happily answer any question that you might have. All right.
Wait, you like McDonald's coffee?
I love McDonald's coffee. Actually, a couple years ago, it was rated like the best coffee in the country. Or there's like some contest. I don't know. Maybe it was sponsored by McDonald's. I don't know. It's good coffee. All right.
I like McDonald's. I like coffee, and I don't like McDonald's coffee. But that's, maybe this is a subjective thing.
Well, what is not subjective is the importance of the family in building
Nice
our
segue.
culture and society. So the Center for Christian Virtue, by which I work, we just released, we haven't released it yet, actually. You're getting a sneak preview of the pamphlet, but it's called Hope and a Future. This is breaking down Ohio's family statistics. Folks, you're going to want to get a copy. It talks about the importance of family in building strong cultures, civilizations, societies. But this particular booklet is a breakdown on Ohio specifically. So we spend most of our money, as Aaron Barry, our president, likes to say, in the state of Ohio, on education, medication, when it comes to like Medicaid and things of that nature, and then incarceration. That's where the majority of our finances go, our taxpayer dollars. So if we want to decrease the amount of money that we're spending in those areas, we have to kind of get at the root causes of why do people end up in jail? Why do people end up needing government assistance when it comes to their health care? Why are, educational systems failing us so poorly? A lot of it goes to the breakdown of the family. And so this report is going to detail that. And actually, we're going to talk a little bit about this in the after show. So join us for more discussion on the family. All right, this week's news, though. Top 5. Number 1, the United Nations, in a report published this week, the UN Working Group on Discrimination Against Women and Girls claims that governments have an intentional obligation to force all hospitals to provide for abortions, including religious hospitals. The report goes as far as describing institutional conscientious objection as impermissible and a human rights violation. Folks, this is why it's so important. When Trump is pulling back from the United Nations, this is the stuff that they're propagating. They're telling even Catholic Christian hospitals that they have to perform abortions. And if it's not, that's a human rights violation if you don't want to do that. So again, President Trump, he signed us back to the Geneva Declaration, which was a declaration that said there's no international right to abortion, and frozen USAID budgeted funds for $607 million, which during the fiscal year of 2022 went to fund abortion around the world. So that is being paused. I mean, you got Marie Stopes International, for example. That's a large, influential abortion business headquartered in the United Kingdom. They received $27 million alone from the Biden administration. So all good things. And when you hear about this in the news, that Trump is, he signed back into law the Mexico City policy through executive order. That's what he's stopping, our taxpayer dollars from funding abortions. Now, the irony of this, the UN releases this report, and President Trump, on National Girls and Women in Sports Day, signs here an executive order on Wednesday called the No Men in Women's Sports. If you haven't had a chance to go look this up, second story this week, please do so. President Trump said this doesn't have to be long. It's all about common sense. Women's sports will be only for women. The war on women's sports is over. It's been really neat, actually, to see a lot of people actually on the left, and the majority of Democrats agree with this as well, that men should not be competing in women's sports. And there's a lot of people on the left saying, how can we, the party of women, the party of, women's liberation and freedom and everything, how did we not do this? And that's exactly what President Trump is doing. It's an iconic photo of him signing that executive order with all those little girls and women around him, thanking him for protecting women. Well past due. But here's the thing, though. It was passed by the House of Representatives. It needs to be passed by the Senate. The executive order, that could be overturned in 4 years by another president. So we need the Senate to pass no men and women's sports, and then the president can sign it into law. All right, third, from the national desk, DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency. Coming back to this is so important that the work that they're doing. So over these first couple weeks of the Trump administration, 104 contracts have been eliminated across 30 federal bodies. So you don't realize that the government is so big, not just because of people we've hired, but then those people that have been hired hire government contractors in the private sector to kind of do their dirty work to a certain extent. And we've cut off, again, 104 contracts, eliminated across 30 federal bodies. And that calculates to about $1.2 billion in savings for the United States government. Look, a drop in the bucket to the trillions, but it's something. It's a start. The agencies, again, that we saw the greatest cuts were the Office of Personnel Management at nearly $500 million, USAID at $228 million, and the Department of Agriculture at $110 million. But if you start looking into some of the stuff that they cut it, let me just read some of the stuff from the White House press secretary. $45 million for diversity scholarships in Burma, $50 million for condoms to be sent to Gaza. More on that in a moment, because the media came out and said, oh, they're just lying about that. $181 million in DEI training contracts, and $1.7 billion in payments to foreign organizations, including $40 million to some particular organizations against supporting abortion. So there's a lot of work that still needs to be done. We're going line by line when it comes to the federal budget, but this is all really good news. On the issue concerning the $50 million for condoms in Gaza, some critics have said, well, that's just not true. There's no way to spend that much money on those things. President Trump said that money's probably being used for bombs for Hamas. And it's not as outlandish as you think. U.S. News reporter, USA Today, said that in last April's report, there had been the U.S. Agency for International Development spent $61 million in 2023 to provide condoms and other contraceptives to other countries. $61 million. Our taxpayer dollars being paid for contraceptives in other countries. It's absolutely ridiculous. So that $50 million for condoms to be sent to Gaza, not outlandish to me to think about in any way, shape, or form. All right, fourth, excuse me. Speaking about all this money, and this is where the kind of rubber meets the road with all this stuff. Politico. You may have seen Politico. It's a magazine, reports on news and things of that nature. And I would read Politico a lot. And clearly they have a bias and whatnot. But they also have been receiving money from USAID to the tune of at least $8.2 million. So the government gives what is considered an independent journalism agency money in millions of dollars. That agency promotes a left-wing bias. It's sourced by people just thinking it's a news source, and the government propaganda propagates. That's how it works. And so again, President Trump cutting that from the federal budget. All really, really good news. All right, fifth. Now I have the target that I am going to humbly suggest to the Trump administration of where we can also save some money, some dollars. So number 5, last but not least, Planned Parenthood, 43% of Planned Parenthood's revenues come from government reimbursements. 43%. So they have $1.29 billion in total revenue every year. Mind you, that revenue is coming from the killing of innocent human beings. 300,000 abortions. They're the largest abortion provider in the country. And $553.7 million comes from you and I. You and I paying for the abortion business. Elon Musk, if you're listening, you've talked about the dangers of and the realities that we're not producing enough children. If you want to promote childbearing, then why don't we cut some money from the largest child killer there is in the country, and that is Planned Parenthood. Because look, and we'll get to this in the after show, Hope in the Future, report on the state of Ohio's families. It's going to be launched here in about a week from the Center for Christian Virtue. Super excited about it. But in here, we kind of catalog the state of Ohio's families. And here's the reality, folks. It's 2.1 children per family to replace yourselves. Right now, in the state of Ohio, we are reproducing at 1.6. So each family has about 1.6 kids. That's not enough to replace ourselves. So that's going to impact everything in our society. How do you pay for the Medicaid, for the Medicare, for different programs in our country, for the jails, for the schools, if you don't have people actually paying taxes because you're not repopulating yourselves? It's a sign of societal sickness that we're not having enough children. So, as Vice President J.D. Vance said at the March for Life, we want more babies. Go out, get married, and then have a bunch of babies. Thanks so much for joining us this week on The Catholic Citizen. We'll see you next week as we cover the Catholic news, or the news from a Catholic perspective, all here from the desk of me, myself, and Nick De La Torre. Take care, everybody.
Where do they go if they want to join the backstage after show?
Backstage after show, thecatholiccitizen.com, thecatholiccitizen.com. Just donate $1 and you can join us in our after show conversations, which are always a lot of fun.
Or like way more than $1 if you want to. We're not going to stop you. We wouldn't be mad.
We do need help to keep these lights on. So please consider joining, being a part of the Patreon community at thecatholiccitizen.com and join us for the after show. Take care, everybody.